You can learn a lot about a generation by noticing how they behave when no one is watching. Generation X never expected an audience. Born between the mid-1960s and early 1980s, they grew up in a world where independence wasn't a parenting strategy. It was simply part of daily life. They walked home alone, unlocked empty houses, made their own meals, and solved their own problems, often without anyone asking how their day had been. No one described this as resilience. It was just normal. And when independence isn't optional, it stops feeling like a skill and starts becoming instinct. Gen X didn't learn self-reliance from advice or motivational slogans. They learned it from necessity. When something stopped working, they tried to fix it. When a bike chain slipped, they flipped the bike over and figured it out. When boredom arrived, they invented ways to fill the time instead of escaping it. They discovered early that waiting for help usually took longer than adapting, so they stopped waiting. But independence carried another lesson. Actions have consequences. Rules weren't negotiated and mistakes weren't processed through long discussions. If you crossed a line, the result arrived immediately, clear and direct. Over time, this shaped adults who instinctively evaluate outcomes before acting. They are not overly cautious. They are practiced at predicting consequences. They also grew up watching stability unravel in real time. Marriages ended, loyal employees lost jobs overnight, and institutions that promised security often failed to deliver it. They were told that if you worked hard and followed the rules, life would be stable. Then they watched the rules change. So Gen X learned something more realistic. Stability isn't promised, it's temporary. They hope for the best, but quietly prepare for disruption. Not pessimism, preparedness. To younger generations, Gen X can sometimes seem private, even distant. But privacy to them is not secrecy. It is safety. They grew up in a world where mistakes faded with time. Embarrassment ended at the edge of a neighborhood. It didn't live forever online. So broadcasting your life doesn't feel natural. It feels risky, not because they fear technology, but because they understand exposure. Humor became one of their emotional survival tools. Sarcasm, irony, and detachment helped create distance from uncertainty. They grew up under the shadow of nuclear anxiety, Cold War tension, and cultural instability. They practiced drills that suggested catastrophe was possible, while adults insisted everything was under control. When reality feels frightening but reassurance feels hollow, humor becomes a shield. Distance becomes protection. Their relationship with work began long before adulthood. Paper routes before sunrise, bagging groceries after school, handling cash registers by hand. These weren't resume builders, they were introductions to responsibility. Gen X learned early that the world expects you to show up, whether you feel ready or not. They watched companies downsize without warning, so instead of trusting employers, they trusted competence. You can't control layoffs, but you can control how valuable you are. This created a quiet work ethic. Don't talk about your work, be good at it. This generation carries a paradox. They are fiercely independent, yet quietly dependable. They rarely ask for help, but when someone else needs support, they show up. No announcements, no performance, no need for recognition. Their friendships were built from shared experience rather than convenience. Their relationship with authority is pragmatic. They respect skill and distrust empty titles. If you know what you're doing, they will follow you anywhere. If you don't, the title holds little meaning. Respect, in their experience, has to be earned. Economically, Gen X matured during repeated instability. Recessions, layoffs, and market crashes reinforced a simple truth. Security can disappear quickly. So many developed backup plans, practical skills, and multiple sources of income. Not from ambition, but from experience. Nothing lasts, so preparation matters. Gen X often appears calm during crisis. They assess, adapt, and act while others panic, because uncertainty is not unfamiliar to them. Yet beneath this capability lies a quieter tension. Depending on others can feel uncomfortable. They can handle almost anything. They simply prefer not to need help. They were also the last generation to experience boredom without instant escape. No endless scrolling, no instant answers, no algorithmic distraction. Just time, silence, and imagination. They learned patience, persistence, and how to sit with their own thoughts, an ability that is becoming increasingly rare. They witnessed the transition from analog childhood to digital adulthood. They wrote letters before emails, used encyclopedias before search engines, and memorized phone numbers before phones stored them. If this perspective resonated with you, consider subscribing for more insights into human behavior and generational psychology.